All right, everyone. Well, Side Cheer Chat session hosted with Pop Warner. We're so excited. We have two former cheerleaders from the Boston Celtics Green Team here today. So, to get started, let's go over what we're talking about. So, again, we're so excited to have Green Team alumna here. They have so many interesting experiences in STEM to share with you all. We will start with a quick panel discussion led by Dr. Wendy. Then we have a side starter activity that we want to talk to you about called Mission Monarch. We'll wrap it up with a live Q&A and then some final words from everyone. And just a reminder, if you do want to participate in the live Q&A, please comment on Facebook post below or send us your question directly and we will get those answered at the end of the session. All right, Side Cheer Wendy, welcome.
Hi, thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm really excited to talk to both of you, Beverly and Nia, because we have some things in common. You all cheered for the Celtics Green Team. Back in the day in 2011, I danced for the Sacramento Kings in the NBA, so some commonalities there. Bev, you're a biomedical engineer, and so am I. And then Nia, you were in Atlanta for a little bit, and that's where I went to college. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys, learn more about your backgrounds in both STEM and cheerleading, and just get to know you. So let's start with you, Bev. Can you give us a little bit more information on your background?
Yeah, hello everyone. So my name is Beverly. I have a degree in biomedical engineering with a concentration in biomaterials and tissue engineering. I danced throughout college on the university dance team, and after that I was blessed with the privilege of cheering for the Boston Celtics.
That's awesome. Nia, can you tell us about your science and cheer backgrounds?
Yes, I'm happy to. Thank you so much for having me again today. My name is Nia Jones. I am originally from Washington, D.C., and I am an industrial engineer where I also got a minor in law and public policy. I've been cheerleading since I was 10 years old, been dancing since I was 2, and I also was really fortunate to be able to be a member of the Boston Celtics Green Team my last year of college.
That's great. I actually have a question for you, Nia, about your degrees. So how did industrial engineering and your minor in law and public policy, how did that fit together for you? And, they seem very different. So what got you interested? And I'm sure there's synergy there somehow.
Definitely. I love this question because they do seem very different, but the common link is environmental policy. And so one of the things that is happening in our world right now is our response to climate change and, really enacting policies that encompass everything from energy to water security to ensuring that houses are, warm right now with a lot of the blackouts and things going on in Texas. So I studied industrial engineering and law to be able to kind of see both sides where the technology and the policy intersect.
Very cool. That's sort of also how the Science Cheerleaders got started too. Right now we're advocating a lot for STEM and citizen science and trying to show young women that you can do whatever you set your mind out to accomplish. But initially, I think, the goal of the Science Cheerleaders was to get people aware of science policy and get them to care about science. You don't have to be a scientist to care about the laws that affect science and things like that. So it's a good kind of like background and knowledge base to have because it forms the world around you. So Bev, can you tell me what got you interested in biomedical engineering and why you wanted to be a cheerleader?
So what interested me about biomedical engineering was it kind of just sounded like the perfect mush of everything I liked. Since especially starting from middle school and going through high school, like biology has been something that's been really interesting to me. And like growing up as a gymnast, I've always had all sorts of injuries. So just knowing about like how the body works, what makes it hurt sometimes, what makes it heal faster sometimes than others, and just the whole process of knowing how the body works and why it works was super interesting to me. And plus, when it's combined with math, and how it's explained through mathematical models and everything. It just seemed like the perfect match, and I was really lucky, and it turned out to be exactly what I hoped it to be. So I've always loved biomedical engineering.
That's awesome. That's actually the same reason that I chose biomedical engineering as my major. I was like always really, yeah, right. Always really fascinated with the way the human body works and, you know, the physiology, the anatomy of it, but I didn't want to just study it. I wanted to create things that were going to help people someday, or hopefully help people. And yeah, I mean, biomedical engineering, I felt was like the perfect combination of studying the science and the physiology, but also using my hands to create things. So let's stick with you, Beverly. Tell me why you are a dancer or a cheerleader and what made you audition for the Celtics.
So I guess just pursuing my interest outside of science. I've always wanted to stay active in my body since especially it's like polar opposites between like studying your butt off in engineering and you just like I guess practicing all the problems, studying and looking for new ways to improve your system. It's a lot of like even if you're doing something physical like testing things, like your body's still relatively sedentary, so to speak. So I really wanted to stay active outside because I was also balancing like time management and scheduling. So after I took 2 years outside of college to really get comfortable with my job and everything, I decided to audition for the Celtics. And I was really lucky with auditioning for the green team and making it my first audition. So the rest of it is history.
That's fantastic. I also completely agree with that. I cheered for the Raiders when I was in grad school, and you know the drive was like 2 hours in traffic one way and then just over an hour without traffic going back. And I found that they were really great activities because they were so completely separate. You know, I would spend all day using my brain thinking about kind of a very specific set of information, and then the drive was sort of a decompression, go to practice, see my friends. You know, like it's kind of easy to get, for me at least, to get caught up in my work because I just want to get things done. And then I got to see my friends 3 times a week, do a lot of physical activity, feel really great, you know, get your sweat on and stuff. And then on the way back from practice, I felt like I almost got like some clarity on like some of the science stuff I was working on just because you're using different parts of your brain, and I really enjoyed that. So Nia, why did you audition for the green team?
I just want to say first, Wendy, I love the correlation and the story behind it because it's definitely two different worlds. For me, my motivation definitely comes from my mom. First and foremost, she was actually a dancer for the Washington Bullets in the early 1990s. And so, yes, so I was always inspired by her to eventually live out that same dream and be a part of a NBA team or NFL team. And so, yeah, I was in like the very last year of my dual degree engineering program, and yeah, I decided I just wanted to go for it. And it just so happened that the tryouts were at my university, also Northeastern University in the gym. And so that was kind of like, you know, the universe affirming to me that like, you know, they're coming to seek me. And so it just felt like my time. And I was really grateful to be able to be a part of it for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely the universe was telling you a sign. So, Nia, what's your favorite thing about cheerleading?
My favorite thing is always going to be the connection that you have not only to the fan base, but also to the place that you cheered for. Like cheerleaders have a lot of spirit, right? Like from the time of me being in elementary school to like I did an all-star team in middle school. My high school, I did cheer all 4 years, and then into college and now the Celtics. Like you're always connected to those places at like a really deep level because you add literal cheer and like excitement, and you get people, you know, excited to be and to call those places home. And so I always love the connections and the people that I was able to meet. Of course, like being on a team with phenomenal women and having so many connections throughout my life to different cheerleaders and former teammates has always been something I'm super, super grateful for.
Completely second that one. In addition to the Kings, I cheered for the Falcons and the Raiders. Love football. And I totally agree. It's like when you're part of an organization, it's part of you almost. And You know, with the Raiders, they say once a Raider, always a Raider, and it applies to the Raiderettes too. Once a Raiderette, always a Raiderette. And like seriously, all of my friends are people that I either danced or cheered with, or people I met through those people. Literally every single one of my bridesmaids in my wedding was from that world. And I just think it's like, it's so neat to be part of something special. Um, okay, so Bev, let's switch over to the science stuff. What is your favorite thing about your science career?
I mean, just the fact that science is such a universal language just makes me so happy. Like, a lot of the postdoctoral fellows in my labs come from all over the world, from like Germany, France, and like all over the world. And really, it just reminds me that, like, especially in the science community, we're all at the end of the day just humans in this community working to better understand ourselves and how to improve this art of medicine and healing. So it's actually really heartwarming to know that there are people out there who are doing good and really focusing their lives and their careers on how to make people feel better.
Absolutely. I do. I think science is really neat because it's the way we make sense of the world, you know? It's there's so many amazing things that happen every day around us, and it's so cool for me, I think, to be able to study that and explain some of it. I think one of the coolest things, so I started to study cartilage and I try to engineer it. And one of the coolest things about cartilage is when you stand up on it, you're actually standing on the water in your cartilage, not the tissue. It's sort of like a sponge. And so, you know, like there's water trapped in a sponge. And when you stand up, it's the water that bears that weight. And then as you stand there, the water gets squeezed out and then the actual cartilage tissue holds your weight. And I just think that's like the coolest thing ever. And it's amazing to, you know, read publications from other research groups across the world and know that you're working toward the same thing. And like you said, it's sort of a universal language. Yeah. So let's stick with the science stuff again. Nia, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do kind of like on a daily basis?
Sure. So I'm a full-time student in graduate school at the University of California, Berkeley, and I'm actually in the Energy and Resources Group, or abbreviated ERG. And so right now I study kind of the intersection of like climate change impacts and their impacts on people who are incarcerated right now. And so that also is like bringing back in that policy and just a more specified term, because from where I see it in my lens of the world, like those are two of the most catastrophic things that we're facing as a nation, as our response to climate change, and also how we handle our injustice. I call it the injustice system. So that is my day-to-day basis. I'm a full-time researcher and living in sunny Oakland, California, loving it here. It's really beautiful being a transplant on the West Coast.
Yeah. Wow, that's so interesting and like so out of my wheelhouse. I bet it's really incredible probably what you're learning. What is your favorite thing? You know, what is something mind-blowing that you've learned so far?
That's a great question. I think one of the most mind-blowing things is that, for example, a country like Norway, their response to incarceration is to humanize it as much as possible and not excuse the fact that someone deserves, not, I don't want to use the word deserves, but the fact that someone committed a crime, did something wrong, and they need to rehabilitate and they need to learn from it. Norway normalizes like their conditions. So like they feed the people incarcerated like quality meals, they allow them to have educational opportunities, they allow them to work. Where in the United States, it's really inhumane conditions. So I think just realizing that there are places that, you know, we can look to be able to improve our system and make it more efficient and work better. And I think that's the industrial engineer in me also, is just thinking of the systematic approach of how to improve the lives of people, because I'm one of the people that's directly impacted by the carceral system.
That's so interesting. And you actually answered my next question, like how industrial engineering fits in with that. And that's so interesting. You know, science cheerleader seems like a paradox, like science and cheerleading don't go together. And, you know, like we talked about earlier, it seems like sort of policy, social policy, and industrial engineering doesn't fit together, but it absolutely does. That's
For
great.
sure. Thank you.
Bev, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I'm actually full-time in research too. except I'm in rheumatology and immunology. So what that is I study the immune system and how the body defends itself against the germs from the outside world, or in autoimmune diseases, why sometimes the immune system actually starts to attack itself. So how I think of the immune system is kind of like your guard dog, your loyal pet at home, and they protect you against strangers and people who are not supposed to be in your house. But sometimes in an autoimmune disease, the dog will forget who you are and will actually turn around and attack you. So my job is to figure out why that happens and also find new treatments to more effectively treat these autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, all sorts of immune diseases, autoimmune diseases.
That's so interesting. Like I said, I work in orthopedics and cartilage repair, and rheumatoid arthritis is a huge issue, and it's unfortunately not something that cartilage engineers are able to tackle yet. I think there's still a lot that we don't understand. That's why people like you exist. And from our perspective, if we engineer a cartilage implant to replace damaged cartilage, the environment inside the joint that we're going to put our cartilage replacement into is really inhospitable because of the autoimmune situation. And so we're not even sure if like engineered cartilage would survive in there. So, I mean, everything is like tying together, you know, we have to make implants that can withstand that, or you have to make a treatment that can help that guard dog remember who its family is. That was a great way of explaining it. That's awesome. Okay, so let's stick with you, Bev. Can you tell me a little bit? I'm sure there's synergy here between your science career and your dance career. Is there anything that you've learned from being both a cheerleader, dancer, and a scientist that you can share with maybe these young cheerleaders who are thinking about pursuing science?
You know what, to me, I actually think it's more of a way of life and a perspective at this point, since you always have to stay positive, stay curious, and really just know how to time manage with everything and know how to keep yourself motivated, even when you're exhausted at some times, because there's a lot of workload in school or engineering work and cheering. So just knowing how to budget time, budget energy too. Sometimes you have time but no energy. That also happens too. But just knowing that you can stay positive in those really hard times really brought me to where I am today.
Budgeting energy, yeah, energy management. That's such a good way of putting it. Nia, can you answer the same question? Like, what's the synergy for you between cheerleading, dancing, and your daily life work?
Yeah, so for me, it's also going to fall in the energy category because I study energy, like renewable energy and just that aspect, but also like actual energy that like you bring to a room. Like cheerleaders, like I mentioned before, like we are like ambassadors, like we are the face of things. Like people look to us and they like want to feel good about the team that they're representing or whatever organization that you are representing. So that's for me what the synergy is, just like bringing that energy to everything that you do though. Like you're a cheerleader for, you know, criminal justice reform, or you're a cheerleader for chemistry, right? Like you can just be a cheerleader in any aspect of life. And that for me is the synergy. It's just knowing that it can be transferable.
I completely agree with that. When I wrote my dissertation to get my PhD, there's an acknowledgement section, you know, that you write for a dissertation or a thesis, and I titled mine The Importance of Cheerleaders. And I talked about, you know, obviously thanking my friends and family and stuff like that, but my cheerleading experience made me realize how like deformable or how much you can affect somebody's mood if you really try. You know, I cheered for the Raiders for 4 years. We had some really bad seasons and some really, really good seasons. We thought we were going to the Super Bowl by last year, and then Derek Carr broke his leg, but it's another story. But, you know, in those bad years, like, Raiders fans are diehard, and so they'll be like in the stands, but like it's painful when your team is losing. And then the DJ will start playing some song from the Bay Area and they see us dancing and then they start dancing. They're doing our moves. They're getting hyped up. They're yelling. They're singing. And it made me realize like you can turn somebody's mood around. You can turn around the way they're approaching a problem or what they think about something. And that's so powerful. And I remember also like directly applying to me, you know, like when it gets hard in school, you're like maybe not getting a lot of sleep or you're trying to finish something. I would go through this drive-through coffee place where I went to school, and the people that worked there were so incredibly friendly. They would like write stuff on my cups because I was going there like twice a day trying to finish my PhD. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, this barista just put me in a fantastic mood because she remembered my name and asked how my day is going. So I completely agree with everything that you said. Sorry, I went off on a little tangent there, but I get really excited. There's like for sure, you know, a synergy between the science side and the cheerleading side. We only have a couple more questions, but so on a little bit more like serious note, Bev, can you tell me like maybe one time you faced adversity or something that you thought was really hard to overcome, and how did you motivate yourself? What did you do to make it through that?
So I think, well, the biggest challenge that I faced so far was mostly time management. Since working in a research lab, I'm there sometimes 7 days a week, depending on how my cell cultures are growing, and really just like fitting everything in between each other. So especially when I was cheering for the Boston Celtics, and there was full-blown practices and games and appearances in between all of them, it was really challenging for me to like save at least 2 hours for hair and makeup and at least 1 hour for commuting through the city. I lived like 3 miles from between like my work, like my lab and the arena, but still I had to save so much time to get ready and everything. So I just felt like I was being squeezed through a small tube that I didn't fit through. So I almost had to like take a leave of absence from my work since I thought like I can't do a good job doing both. So what are the consequences, or how do I manage this? And really at the end of the day, it's just really slow down, take a deep breath. And I just reminded myself like, why am I doing this? It's because I really love to do both. And like, I'm just always interested in what I'm doing in my research. So I feel like taking a break off that would just really hurt me in the long term. And like, if I were able to do both and just really like commit through the whole thing, and I did, like, it was just an experience of a lifetime to be able to do both and handle it. And it was great.
Yeah, you know, I completely agree with the NBA, and Nia, I see you nodding too. It's a really big time commitment. And when I cheered for the Kings, it was my first year in grad school, so I was taking classes. And your analogy of being squeezed through a small tube that you don't think you can fit through is, I think, a really good one. And that was also part of the reason I went back to the NFL. Reason number one was I just loved football and missed it. But reason number two was you gotta assess what's important to you, and you know, if dancing is important to you, you pursue that. Or if it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, maybe you want to pursue that. Or if the science aspect is important, then you prioritize that. But I think it's a really important experience to go through that, to have to prioritize, think about what your priorities are, and then make those decisions. And then also just realizing like it's okay if something doesn't work out. I oftentimes think that, you know, maybe young cheerleaders look at us and they think like, oh my gosh, they cheer for all these teams and they do all these things and they're super amazing. And it's like, no, we struggle too. You know, we try things, we like them, we don't like them, they work out or they don't, and we make decisions and move on. We're all human, and trying things and them not working out is totally okay. So Nia, I'm going to throw it back over to you with the same question. You know, what was a time where you faced an obstacle and how did you get over it?
Yeah, so I'm gonna get a little personal, but it hopefully is gonna all tie into it, to what you were saying earlier, Bev, about what you actually study. So I have a illness called Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune condition that affects your digestive system, so specifically like your colon and your small intestines. And if y'all didn't know, like your intestines is responsible for absorbing and like providing your body all the nutrients that it needs from your food. So it's really important that your immune system that is there is not attacking itself, because it doesn't know what's good and what's bad, and that can cause a lot of pain. It can have a lot of side effects, but I'm really pleased to share that I'm in remission today, on this day in 2021. Feels really good to be here. I've had the condition for about 6 years. I did, in fact, struggle a little bit right before I made the Celtics. I had to have like an emergency colonoscopy just to make sure that everything was working and looking okay, and had to go on some treatment plans. But I just am here to say that despite the fact that I had that condition, it didn't stop me from going after my goal and my dream. And I never saw my dream fade away when I was given that diagnosis. And if you're diagnosed with any type of condition, or if you are considered to be disabled, like don't let that stop you from achieving your goals. And as long as you're able-bodied, as long as you have that, you know, physique and physical ability to do something, then you're for sure capable of doing it. So
That's so inspirational, and that's, I mean, really incredible that you almost like compartmentalize, like this is happening to me, but this is also really important to me, and I'm gonna go for it. I'm sure you were, dealing with stuff even during your audition, and so I just like, wow, really applaud you for pushing through and making the team, and that's incredible. So it looks like we have a couple questions coming in on the chat, but I think I'm actually going to hold off on those questions just to give other people maybe an opportunity to add their stuff. So let's just sort of wrap up our planned questions here. Maybe, so Nia, like what's one thing you hope the audience learns from you and your experiences today?
one thing that I want you all to take away is that you don't have to choose this or that. Like a great point Bev made is that time management, like pick and choose how much time that you want to spend doing this or that, but you truly can do whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to be a cheerleader and a researcher and watch cats on the weekend, or like watch Netflix in your free time, like you can do whatever you want to do. And I hope that that definitely remains true.
Totally agree. Yeah, I mean, that's the goal of the Science Cheerleaders. Try to be living proof that you can be both a scientist and a cheerleader or a dancer. And it's okay if science and cheerleading aren't your two things, if it's public policy and golf or something, things that seem completely different. Like, we just want people to know that they can accomplish whatever they set their minds to. Bev, what do you want people to take away from your experiences?
I think it's just important to stay motivated and stay positive through anything that life throws at you. Because at the end of the day, if you believe that you can do it, you're already halfway there. So I think it's really important just to really believe in yourself and just work hard at everything that you try. And eventually you will make progress and you will get to where you want to be.
I completely agree with that too. There's a famous quote, and I can't remember who it's by, but the quote is that if you believe you can do something, you can, and if you believe you can't do it, you can't. And I completely agree with that too. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these questions coming in from the chat. Nia, what was your favorite memory as a cheerleader?
Oh, okay. I have an actual answer for this. Even though it was all very incredible, my favorite moment was when we performed with all the sports, all the performance teams. So it's the green team, the Celtics dancers, and the dunk team, all of us together performing at the same time in our first halftime show. Like, I'll never forget how each energy, each team fed off of each other. And it was just incredible. It was my favorite time.
Amazing. Yeah, I think some of my favorite memories are those like very first game days. In college, my very first game as a dancer on the Georgia Tech dance team, we were standing in the end zone at the beginning of the game. They did the national anthem, and then there was a flyover. And it was so low, like, oh, I felt like it was on top of me. And I was like almost in tears because the energy from all of that is just fantastic. Or like in the NFL, you're standing in the tunnel, the players start running, the fans are screaming, music's going. Ugh. I have chills now. Completely agree. Bev, what is your favorite cheerleading memory?
I think I definitely agree with Nia with the halftime show with the entire Celtics entertainment, That's just an incredible experience of having every group show their talents and putting it all together in one 10-minute piece on the court. For me personally, I think learning the double full basket toss and being caught by like four strong men at the same time was like one of the best experiences for me. Like starting from practices where like the men and women on the green team were so helpful and so nice and positive that like the learning experience from the start to finish was just amazing. And like I didn't have any cheerleading experience before since auditioning for the green team. I had my gymnastics background and my dance experience. So really like synergizing everything together into a professional cheerleading and stunt team was such a cool experience. And then to put it onto the arena, into the courts, was just like a whole nother level of a lifetime's worth of experience.
Yeah, I bet. Was that the picture that I've seen of you? You're like in the air, upside diagonal, and there's a bunch of guys below you. Oh my gosh,
Yep.
how cool. I can't
Like
imagine like
15,
what,
20 feet in the air. And it's just
yeah.
underneath.
What does it feel like to like be in the air like that? I'm just so
Actually
fascinated.
almost feels like slow motion. Like I can just feel myself in the air. And when I do, I first learned a layout first and then a full. And then when I got to my double full, it's almost like swimming through the air. Because when they throw you up, you actually have momentary like zero gravity on the very top. And like I can feel that moment and I'm looking down and like all of the guys are actually looking up at me. I can see all their faces. So it's actually a really cool perspective.
How cool. That's incredible. Nia, I see you nodding. Did you stunt too? Oh my gosh, tell me about your stunting experience. So, okay,
I was
really
gonna
fast
also
plug.
say,
We have the Science of Cheerleading ebook written by Darlene Cavalier and the Science Cheerleaders, where we explain some of the physics in cheerleading, like literally in these stunts that you guys are talking about. So this is like a perfect tie-in. Okay, tell me, Nia, tell me about your stunting experience. I'm so interested.
yeah, so even though I cheered before, I never did co-ed stunting before the Celtics. And so that was my first introduction. And like Bev said, the team was really helpful in like getting us like acclimated. And it was a really easy learning process for me too, just remaining tight and kind of just taking all that I learned from cheerleading up until that point. But for sure, the basket tosses were always my favorite. And I think that the best moment is just like when you're at the top and the fans are just like they don't know what's gonna happen and they're like, ooh, and like you just it's like all kind of one motion of like sound and space. It's truly like indescribable, but it's like one of the best feelings. Sure.
How cool. I'm just amazed. I'm a dancer by training, and so, the only cheerleading I really did was with palms. So the stunting is like mind-blowing for me. But I think it's also really cool that you guys didn't come from like a co-ed cheerleading stunting background and you learned it and you were great at it when you cheered for the Celtics. And that's like amazing proof that you can do whatever you set your mind to, even if you didn't learn it when you were like 3 or something. It's incredible. Ugh. Anyway, so like I said, we have a couple more questions coming in through the chat, but let's hold off to give people a little bit more time to submit them. And then if you guys want to hang on, we will talk about our citizen science activity, and then we'll come back to you for those final questions. Okay, Sam, do you want to talk about citizen science?
Absolutely. So today I want to share with you guys a SciStarter project. So SciStarter is our sister company. If you go to scicestarter.org, you can find out more about everything they're doing. The SciStarter activity we wanted to highlight this month is called Mission Monarch. With weather warming up everywhere, we figured it's a perfect time for you all to go outside. If you didn't know, monarch butterflies are actually an endangered species. So this means if we don't take extra precautions, they will be extinct soon. So the goal of this project is to collect data in order to better understand monarch populations, where they are, how they're growing, in order to hopefully keep them alive and get them out of the endangered species category. So if you, literally any of you, want to become a scientist, all you have to do is go to scicestarter.org and /missionmonarch and then follow the steps. There's only 4 steps. You find the milkweed, which will explain what to look for, verify presence of monarch butterflies, write down your observations, and then send your data in. And that's it. So just by providing data about monarchs in your own backyard, you are helping researchers across the country. So easy as 1, 2, 3, 4, now you're a scientist. If you want to learn more about the project or any other projects SciStar is doing, do visit their website. There's a ton more information, instructional videos, and sign up steps as well. But it's a great time to go outside and search for butterflies. Wendy, any more questions?
Yeah, we have, looks like a couple more. Also, I just want to say citizen science is so cool because you don't have to be a trained scientist. It can literally be anybody going out looking at butterflies, and you're helping professional scientists do really, really important work. I just think that's so cool. Okay, so let's continue with the questions. There's some other really good ones in here. Nia, let's start with you. What would you tell a young woman who is a cheerleader or a STEM lover or both, who is facing stereotypes or pressures?
Okay, before I start, I just want everyone to just take a collective breath. Okay, cheerleaders are smart, first and foremost. So science cheerleaders prove that, you know, cheerleaders can be scientists, but cheerleaders can also be lawyers. Cheerleaders can be like, you know, people that work on cars, right? Like you can be a mechanic. Like cheerleaders can be anything. And so the stereotypes that say you can't be a gorgeous woman and like be talented and have great athleticism and you can't do something that's like challenging and hard and like seems like it's for men, like that all goes out the window. For me personally, when I was 16 years old, I had my very first internship at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So I started off really young knowing that like I was, you know, a Black woman, one of the only Black women too, like in the entire agency, and also like, you know, a cheerleader in high school at that same time. So like I was kind of already doing it for a while. And from that moment on, like I was never discouraged. I was never like said, hey, you can't do both these things at the same time. I was only supported. And so just make sure you surround yourself by people that support you and that tell you that you can do these things. And if anyone says that you can't, they are not there in your life for you to see the best you.
That's great. I mean, it's amazing that you had such a supportive network of coworkers and everything right from the beginning. I think the biggest thing I faced was like internal pressure from myself. I didn't have anybody telling me like you can't be on the dance team or be an engineer. I just felt like I couldn't do both for some reason until I interned with a doctor in Atlanta when I was in college, and she had been a chemical engineering major at my school, obviously like back in the day. And while she was there, she was the feature twirler at Georgia Tech. And this was like living proof that you can be both. And then when she went to medical school, she was crowned Miss Georgia in the 70s. And so this, you know, she had an amazing variety of activities that she was interested in. She was living proof that you can be successful at anything. And I think it also, like for me, it comes down to hard work. I don't learn quickly. I don't read quickly. I don't remember things that well, but I'm willing to put in the work to be successful at the stuff that I want to do. I'm tall, my knees hurt. It takes a lot for me to move my body around as a dancer, but gosh darn it, I really want to be a dancer and I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to practice until I get it right. So Bev, same question to you. What would you tell an aspiring cheerleader or scientist facing either internal or external pressures?
You know what? I really agree with both of you, Nia and Wendy. Just really, you have to believe in yourself and don't care about what other people say about you. Since at the end of the day, it's your life to live and it's your decision. And especially since we're in a society where you can chase all your dreams and like just go chase it. Even if other people are hating on you, like don't listen to them. They're just jealous. Like, bottom line is they just want to be you and just don't let that affect you.
Yeah, I agree. You just gotta listen to your internal voice and what's important to you. And I think that's like the biggest, I mean, we just talked about it. You know, if you believe you can do something, you can. You got to believe in yourself and surround yourself with people who are going to support you in those goals. Totally agree. We have another really great question from Jeffrey. Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? Nia, do you want to take a stab at that one?
Of course, thank you for that question. For me, 5 to 10 years, definitely Dr. Jones by that point. Definitely going to get the doctorate after my master's is over next year. And my end goal is honestly to open a school for people who are either formerly incarcerated or are youth who are like in pretty much trapped in the carceral system, and giving them motivation and actual like skills and vocational things that they can do that are related to the climate movement. So that's my like big goal of my life. And honestly, somewhere in there, I would love to be a Warriors dancer, because like I think of myself as a warrior already, and I absolutely love the team. I love everything that they stand for. It has so much amazing history. So definitely, if I'm going to be in the Bay Area continuing my studies, I definitely want to go for it.
Those are fantastic goals, future Dr. Jones. And I love that you want to start a school. That's fantastic. I think, I don't know if anybody else watches like Chopped or those like cooking competition shows, but I love the stories of like, you know, I was on the street or I had a lot of trouble and then I found cooking and it changed my life. And then that person is on the show. They're just have a fantastic career. And I know that cooking is, you know, very different than what you do, but I think finding something you're passionate about can be life changing. And so like your goal of opening a school for people from maybe non-traditional backgrounds is just so fantastic. And I think going to be really, really rewarding and life changing for a lot of people. I wish you a lot of luck with that. Well, that's so exciting. Bev, where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years?
So I'm actually in the process of applying for medical school right now. So we'll hear back in a few months, but fingers crossed that I get in somewhere. And after that, there's 4 years of studying to become a doctor. And then following medical school is then residency. Depending on which specialty, it's usually 3 to 6 years more or less. And then more additional training after that. I have also had a lifetime goal of serving in the military at some point in my life. So if I can become a military physician, that would be like my ultimate life goal, but we'll see. Fingers crossed.
That's also, those are amazing goals. Good luck with your med school. Oh, I guess you're done with applications, but hearing back, you know, our whole science cheerleader community is behind you, and for sure. That's so exciting. And I actually like at one point considered doing the same thing. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get my PhD and then I want to go to med school. And I've always been interested in like facial reconstruction surgery, specifically like with your nose and your ears because it's cartilage. And the military is at the cutting edge of some of that stuff. And you have, again, like Nia, you have the opportunity to really, really change people's lives and improve them fantastically. So good luck with that. How exciting. We definitely need to keep in touch so that you guys can keep us updated when you become Dr. Jones and Dr. Tomita. Okay, let's do one last question. Again from Jeffrey. Really good questions. Have you had a science mentor or role model like specifically that impacted you? Nia, I see you nodding, so let's start with you.
Yeah, so I'm going to just go ahead and thank all of my former deans of engineering from the time I was at my first institution at Clark Atlanta. His name is Dr. Olu Olatidoye, or Dr. O for short. He's from Nigeria, first and foremost, and has like 7 degrees. And I'll never forget like my freshman year being in his office and just seeing like the mechanical engineering, architectural engineering, like in all these different schools, and just being inspired by all those degrees. So he is the reason why I'm going to keep going and climbing the academia ladder for sure. And then my other dean at Northeastern University, Dean Richard Harris, he's also very awesome. He's actually who motivated me like even a step further to go to grad school, because long story short, I spent 6 years in undergrad, and people may say that's a long time. Like there's no such thing as a long time. Take however much time that you need to finish your degree. And yeah, keep going if that's what you want to do afterwards. So definitely my deans for sure were my biggest mentors.
That's great. Yeah, I bet it was so inspiring to sit in his office and just look at everything he's accomplished and think like, wow, maybe I can do something similar. That's great. Um, okay. Bev, did you have a specific role model or somebody that inspired you?
I think I've just had a really good fortune of having like really good mentors and professors and teachers all my life. So like even starting from high school where I took AP courses, AP biology or AP physics, like all the way through college with like biomedical engineering professors, like they've all been really instrumental to my growth as a person and professionally too. So especially the ones that have a sense of humor, even going through the toughest courses where like we're not even sure if that's English on the board, maybe it's Greek because there's so many letters up there. Like just being able to stay positive and really have a good mindset in learning and really just having fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see where, having somebody that looks and acts like a human would be so important, when you're learning something that maybe you're intimidated by. Yeah, I completely relate. And yeah, what you said actually reminded me of something. I remember when I was younger, I didn't really like school and it was hard. And then I realized once I found something that I was passionate about and that I liked to study, it I liked it way more. And sometimes it's still hard. A lot of times it's still hard for me even. I'm still learning things that I don't understand, but it's now stuff that I want to figure out. And I think, your dean with those 7 really incredible degrees in various fields is like a really good example of like when you find something you're passionate about, like you're going to do it. And being a lifelong learner, I love. I kind of wish I could stay in school forever because there's always something new that I want to learn. Got my PhD in biomedical engineering, and now this is my last semester. Woo! Getting a master's in regulatory science, which is how the FDA works. So I'm learning about regulation of medical products in the US and Europe. And I remember back in college, I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is so boring. Like, I'm never going to need to know it. And now here I am getting another degree in it because I think it's so incredibly interesting. So yeah, just find something you're passionate about and keep going. You guys have such amazing stories. This has been an amazing conversation. Really, really enjoyed talking to you guys. I think that we're going to wrap it up. Also, thank you to everyone out there who submitted those really, really great questions. Helped us facilitate a really great discussion. So, Sam, do you want to take over and close us out?
Absolutely. So again, Nia, Bev, thank you so much for being here. This was really awesome. Great questions, great answers. Again,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. If you guys want to be a citizen scientist, visit sciencecenter.org. Please keep up with us on sciencecheerleaders.org. All of our social channels are listed here. We want you to draw a scientist, perform science cheers, share with us, tag us, and you could be entered to win a prize. So we look forward to seeing you all next month. Stay tuned for the announcement on who we'll be interviewing, but we can't wait to see you.
Before we leave, can we do a Go Science cheer?
Absolutely.
I don't have my palms. I forgot them upstairs, but we'll still do it. So I'll count to 3 and then we'll do a Go Science. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go Science!
Thanks so much for inviting us here today.
Thank you guys so much for coming. We had such great conversations, and I wish you guys the best of luck in all of your endeavors.
Thank you.